Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to the Life and Times of Crazy Patrick. Hey, I'm feeling pretty good today, and I don't know why. It's one of those weird days that I don't feel too bad. So I decided I'm going to smoke a rack of St. Louis style ribs, and I'm going to use a Coca-Cola towards the end. And, oh shoot. So I'm going to pause this now here for a second. Alrighty, folks, here's my ribs right here. Now, what I've done with these ribs, the first thing I did was clean, rinse them off real good. You want to get that membrane off the bone side. So most people already know about that. And I use Great American Land and Cattle Company seasoning. It's the best seasoning I found around here for these ribs. Now, this is what I have to smoke them on. It's a charbroil with the side box. It's to smoke them on. And what I've done is I put a chimney full of Kingsford charcoal. Don't use cheap charcoal. Use the good charcoal because it holds heat better. And then I'm using also, I don't know if you can see it down there, I'm using cherry wood for the smoke. Now I've got the smoker ready, so I'm ready to put these on the smoker. They're going to be on the smoker for about 2 hours, and gonna spritz them. I have a spray bottle here, and in this spray bottle, what I have in there is about 1/3 of apple cider vinegar and 2/3 of apple juice. And this is what I'll be spritzing them down with to keep them nice and juicy. Then also inside the smoker here, you'll see I have a tray of water that keeps adding moisture to the ribs as they're smoking. So I'm going to go ahead and stop this now. I'm going to get these ribs going, and I'll be back and check them in about an hour. I'm going to spritz them every 30 minutes, but I'll let you see what they look like in about an hour. So I'll catch you back on in about an hour. Alrighty, folks, it's been an hour. I'm going to go ahead and open this up. Hey, let's look at those. Hey, that's looking pretty darn good. I'm going to go ahead. I already spritzed it once. I'm going to spritz it again here. And I don't think it's going to even take, I don't think it's going to take 2 hours on these. I think maybe an hour and a half might be enough smoke. So I'm hoping that's okay. Let me pause this for a second. All right, folks, I've taken the ribs off the smoker. I'm putting 1/2 cup of brown sugar over the top of the ribs. And hold on, folks, I'm going to put you on pause for a second, and then we're going to put the Coke in there. Okay, folks, I got those ribs just resting on the, finishing cooking. And I have this Onan generator on my RV. And the worst thing you can do is leave one of these just sit. So it's time. You're supposed to run them like every month for 30 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and try to start this now. See if we can get her started and let it run about 1/2 hour under a load at least. Sometimes it takes a little time to get some fuel up into the fuel filter. I'm going to go ahead and stop this and get this going, then I'll be right back. Alrighty, she started up. So now I need to let this thing run for about 1/2 hour. I know you can't hear me. but we're gonna let her run for half an hour. I'll be right back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I have that generator running on my RV. I have my air conditioner running on high right now. It's probably near 100 degrees here at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So it was extremely hot in my RV, and it is already cooling down. So the air conditioner on the RV does a really good job. I'm sure you can hear it right now. They make a lot of noise. I hope you can hear me okay right now. But the ribs, when they get done on my smoker, what I do, I go ahead and start my kettle grill because it holds much higher temperature. And so when you put the butter and brown sugar and the Coca-Cola in there, you want to then wrap them up and keep them at a high heat, 350 to 400 degrees for a couple hours, and when they get done, they'll just be falling apart. Delicious ribs. You really don't need to put any barbecue sauce on them. If you want barbecue sauce at that point, once they're done there, you can unwrap them and paint them with barbecue sauce. Just set them on the grill for a few minutes just to caramelize the sauce. But trust me, these are so good, you won't need any barbecue sauce. They'll be delicious. So anyway, I'm sitting here in my RV waiting for those ribs to get done, and I wanted to I told you earlier that Rusty 78609 was telling some stories last night at his Beer 30 Sanity session that hit home with me. He told one about a coach that had given him about like 12 whacks, and when his father found out, his father was gonna go kill the coach, I guess. So what happened to me when I was in 7th grade or 8th grade, it might have been 8th grade, I went to a school, everybody rode a bus. All my friends and I were little hellions. We were always causing problems. We had a principal that his name was Ulrich, but we nicknamed him Pinky, and we did everything we could to drive that man completely insane. And but when you got off the bus, you could go around behind the school to a set of double doors and get into the restrooms if you needed to use the restroom. So I got off the bus one morning and I had to use the restroom. So I went around the school, I went to the double doors, all my friends were back there, and what we used to do, we used to go in there and slam the bathroom door, and it would echo through the halls, and Pinky, the principal, would come running down the hall hollering, "Boys, boys, boys." But before he could ever get there, we were gone, and he could never prove that it was us that was doing it. Just driving him crazy. So anyway, I got off the bus, I went around there to use the restroom, and when I opened the door to go in, our shop teacher, I can't remember his name to save my life, but he was not a nice guy, and he had a terrible temper. He had thrown a hammer at one of my friends and just missed hitting him with a claw hammer. So he was not a really nice guy. And apparently my friends back there, unbeknownst to me, because they got there before I did, I'm going to take a little drink of beer for folks, my throat's getting dry. Unbeknownst to me, my friends had been back there raising hell. So the shop teacher is inside the doors. I need to use the restroom. I didn't know what was going on. I was totally innocent. I walk up there, I open the door, and he hits me right square in the nose, as hard as he could hit. And I was immediately saw red. I was ready to go in there and fight that shop teacher. I didn't care what happened, but I could not get in. He was holding the door shut. Meanwhile, my nose is running a river of blood. I go around, I run around to the front of the school, I go into the office, and I let the office know what had just happened. And the school nurse came and tried to stop the bleeding, and I was still so mad. All I wanted to do was get my hands on that guy, and I would have done my best to whoop his ass. But the principal was kind of holding me down, the school nurse. So as soon as I could get away from them, there was a payphone right outside the office. I went out and I called my dad at work, and I told him what had happened, that this shop teacher had punched me in the face and bloodied my nose, and my father was like, "I'll be right there." I was standing there in the lobby of the school right there at the front when my dad got there. And when he walked in those front doors, you could see the steam and the smoke coming out of his ears. He was bright red. He was so mad. And my dad never cussed. And he goes, "Where is that son of a bitch?" And I said, "Well, I guess he's down in the shop down this hallway at the end." The principal come running out, and he's hollering at my dad, "Oh, Mr. Higgins, please, please, Mr. Higgins. Please, Mr. Higgins, we'll take care of it. Please, Mr. Higgins, don't." My dad was going to go and beat the living hell out of this guy. So what ended up happening was the principal calmed my dad down where he wasn't going to go kill him. And they ended up having a hearing with the school board. And they came to a decision that he could never teach anywhere again in the entire state of Colorado, and that this would probably follow him for the rest of his life. But after Rusty told that story last night about how his dad wanted to kill that coach that paddled his ass, my dad, if he would have got his hands on that guy, he probably would have come close to killing him. So those are the things that happen when you're a kid. It was just one of those stories. So anyway, folks, when the ribs get done, I'm gonna give you a shot of those ribs. We're gonna cut them. We're gonna see how they came out. I hope I didn't mess them up, but we'll find out. And the RV's cooling off, the generator's running. I don't have a 30 amp plug here to run the air conditioner on the RV. So if I want to run the air conditioner on the RV, I have to fire up the generator. But the generator needs to run anyway, or the carburetor will, the gasoline in the carburetor will turn to varnish, and it'll mess up the carburetor. And you don't have to change those carburetors. They're a cheap carburetor, and they don't cost very much, but they're a pain to change out. So the best way you can keep your generator running is to run it 30 minutes every month under a load. And I use Lucas fuel additive in my fuel, and so that's always going through the generator. Generators on these things aren't real practical. If you're going to go camping more than a day or two, the generator is not very practical because they burn about a half a gallon an hour. And at the price of gas right now, you can't afford to run that generator. I'll run it at home here a little bit just to keep the generator in good shape. But if you're going to go camping these days, you need to go camping somewhere where you can at least plug into electricity and have water. You know, you don't need full hookups. I have a state park pass in the state of New Mexico, a senior pass. It only costs me $100 a year. And I can go to any state campground in the state. I think there's over 30 of them. I can, if I hook up to water and electric, it only costs me $4 a day. And if you're going to stay like a week at a time, I think it's a $12 reservation fee. But that's so cheap, and you can use all the electricity, all the water you want. So it's a great deal. So even if you're from out of state and pay for that park pass, I think it would pay for itself in a very short period of time. Well, anyway, I'm going to leave you with that right now. We're going to let the ribs get done, and I'll show you what they look like, and I'll catch you here in just a little bit. All right, folks. I cut some ribs, and they're so done that they're falling apart off the bone, and they taste delicious. So anytime you want to do some ribs, if you follow this recipe, you cannot never go wrong. So with that, I'm going to say good night, sleep tight, don't let the bed bugs bite. If they do, pick up a shoe and beat them till they're black and blue, and I'll catch you on the flip-flop.